Welcome back to the channel. Today we've got something a bit special. We're going to weather this 5-car XPT Express that started in 1982 on the main south. So stay tuned, we're going to show you how we're going to weather this train. So the XPT has a power car at each end, and this is the trailing car we're going to work on. It's important to probably, when you're looking at weathering a locomotive, is to use a reference photograph, and you'll see one above here now. And in this particular case, these XPTs, when they came out in 1982, the engine was like a very, very, very light grey, almost white. But they didn't stay like that for very, very long. And you'll see from the photograph that diesel and soot, mainly diesel fumes, basically takes over the entire top of this engine, and that's how we're going to weather this today.
A few minutes later.
Now I have another XPT. This is the very first. This is the very first livery. This is the 1982 livery. I have a later livery to use. Now I'm using pan pastels here, which I've used to weather a lot of locomotives and rolling stock. They're just the pan pastels that you can buy from any craft store. And I've also got a bottle of Humbrol weathering powder as well, and the famous barking gecko in the background as well. So, middle of summer here, or close to the middle of summer, so you might hear some weird noises in the background. But to start off, I just use a very soft brush, dip it in some powder, and we'll start with straking on some black like this. Now we've got to build this up in layers, but you don't have to be too careful with it, because at the end of the day it's going to be pretty black. Now one thing I have done is I have taped up the windows, and that's just with some basic masking tape. So always mask up your windows, because the prototype, again, the drivers do clean the windows, or they come out of the carriage workshops each day. They've had their windows cleaned. So as you can see, I'm just building up this layer by layer, and just getting it started here like this. So just brushing. Now I'm just using powders and brushing it on. Now you could use a spray gun, but soot comes out and it gets blown by the wind. So always go in the direction of the locomotive is going. So I'm in the direction of the loco be going this way, so the soot would be going this way. These are the exhaust vents here, so you probably want more back here like this. So you've just got to layer it up like this. As you can see, it's going to take a little while to do this, but once you've got it looking good, you should be happy with it. A lot of people would say, why would you do this to a brand new model? But unlike the UK, this model was modelled off the HST in the UK. That's a bit much there, but anyway, we'll brush it past. Unlike the HST that was probably kept relatively clean, these were never really clean. They were clean the day that they were made, and it was sort of downhill from there. Now they do take them through, at Everley in New South Wales, they take them through the carriage works, but they really only get the sides clean, and they clean the windows so that the passengers don't complain too much. But are they are they as clean as they could be? No, probably not. So, you know, just a little bit of soot down the side there. You know, whether I get this loco looking exactly like the prototype photo that you saw just before, I don't know. But yeah, we'll keep going until we get it built up to looking pretty good. Now, as you can see, I've turned the loco around, and I'm just giving it some more coating here on the other side, just a little bit along the sides here. Again, don't be too worried about getting too much in too many spots, because these are a grimy engine, so certainly you've got to apply a fair bit of powder, but you do have to layer it up. Now, I don't think I'm going to be able to get it exactly like the prototype, which is all of this area here completely black, unless I get out the spray gun. Now, I'm going to get out the spray gun shortly to do the trucks along here, because as you can see in the prototype photograph, these trucks came out as a light grey, but in service they're more like the track, they're more like a grimy brown, so we're going to give that a bit of a hit, so with the spray gun shortly. So once we've done that, it'll be certainly looking a lot different, and depending on how I go, I may give this roof just a very, very light spray of you know, a very charcoaly black, just to grime it up a little bit more. Now, once you've got the basics pretty well how you like it, I always just use an air duster just to give it a little blast off. As you can see, you know, you lose a lot from doing that, but now you've actually got a base level of grime on the top of the loco. So I'm doing that in preparation, because I am going to give it a very, very light dusting with some charcoal black, just to make it a little bit darker, because the powders, with powders on light grey or white, you can only go so far, you know, to get the result that you want. So we're back after lunch now, and I've now added some black weathering powder to the top and along the side, particularly where the exhaust vents are across the top here. And we're now going to mix up some paint, and we're going to give this a light dusting of black across the top. I've taped up the windows on this. This is the A unit, this is the front, this is the City of Albury, this unit. Interesting fact, these actually did set an Australian speed record for 183 kilometres an hour on the main south, just down, you know, north of Cootamundra, and it was only ever beaten, that record was only beaten by the Queensland tilt train, but we don't generally see trains going 180 kilometres an hour in Australia. This particular model was built in Sydney, but it was modelled on the HST, and the carriages were a Budd design as well. Now I've mixed up my paint. I'm using SMS Premium Black, and we'll see how that goes. I've done a little test already, so we'll just give that a little very, very light run over the top, just like this. Just very, very light, and you'll see I've also masked up the side so that we don't get too much paint on the sides. So just give it quite a good dusting there, noting that this is where the exhaust is, so you want it sort of darker from the exhaust back. So I'll just turn the loco around so we can do some from the other side. I'll just switch it around here very carefully. Still see there, hopefully, yeah, still in the scene. So I'll just get our gun again, little test, and just give it a very light run there, and then a little bit heavier back from the exhaust. Now you could go a lot heavier than this, but I don't want to make it ridiculously black, but this will, it's about all you need. And then a little bit more, and just a little bit of drying there as well. And then a little bit of a squirt here and there. You don't have to have it completely even. A little bit across the nose. Whoops, a little bit much, but that's okay. And a little bit more down the sides. And a little bit down the centre like that. So I'll just let that dry and we'll see how it looks. Now we'll just give the other loco, which is at the other end, a spray as well. Noting to be more black from the exhaust vents back, which is, you don't have to make it exactly the same as the other loco. You know, environmental conditions often control how much you put on, how much grease and soot and oil is on the top. See, this one's got a little bit more than the other one, but it really doesn't matter too much. A little bit there, and a little strong burst every now and then. Just evens it up a bit. A little bit across the nose. And that's about all she needs. So what we'll do now is, one thing that you'll notice in the photograph that you saw above is that the trailing carriage behind also has some soot down the roof, so we're going to do that now. So this is the first carriage past the locomotive, and the soot obviously carries through onto the roof, so we're just going to blend it from dark through to light from the top here. Just like that. Obviously darker at this end, going down to... Oops, we've just run out of paint. Right, we've just topped up the paint. There we go. Just give that a light spray like that. That's about all it needs, it's just like that. So we'll go and grab the other carriage and we'll do that one as well. So this is the carriage at the other end, so we'll just, same treatment again. Very lightly. You know, which is obviously the soot as it's belching out of the loco. It just belches down the top of the roof. Carries onto the top of the silver. That's really all it needs. A little bit on the end. Very, very lightly done. Okay, just looking at the photos again, even all of the other carriages have quite sooty roofs, so I'm just going to give this the very lightest of spray just to take the edge off the silver. Just like that. That's all it takes. Now this is my tin of weathering paint that I've had for a couple of years. A friend of mine, Greg, had it made up for me from a colour that he'd used for weathering British rolling stock, and it's a murky brown. It's made up, and it's an automotive-based paint. It's got strong pigments in it, but as good model painters will always tell you, always stir your paint. Now, I'm giving this a good stir, and the reason why is because it's got big lumps on the bottom. So you've obviously got to mix those lumps. You can shake. Now I shook this tin for probably 3 minutes, maybe 4 minutes, and you've really got to really stir your paints to make sure that all of the pigment and all of the solids go back into the paint to be able to give it the colour rendition that you're looking for, and also the body, because all the pigments, they can settle to the bottom. So you really just got to give this a really, really good stir. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to decant some of this into a small bottle. Then I'm going to add a little bit of thinner, and then this is going to be what we use to weather all of the running gear of this XPT to make it look realistic. And this is the paint that I've used to weather most of my tracks. So when you've got a train like the XPT that is running up and down, to Albury or to wherever it might be, the grime that's on the trucks and the running gear is going to match the grime that's on the ballast. So, unless it's a train that's come from another region, if it's come from the north coast, it might be lighter grey, but the the pigments, of the main south. This particular colour, we've sort of colour matched that. Greg colour matched it, but I took a sample of it and I pulled over to the side of the railway at Goulburn, and I actually colour matched this to the actual side of the track. So it's very, very close, and it's a base off a burnt umber, but it's just this murky brown, and it's such a universal colour that you can use for any kind of weathering, whether it's sides or bogies or roofs of houses or whatever. It's just a lovely universal colour. Now that's coming up quite nice now, so we'll decant some of that now into the bottle, and we'll add some thinners to it. So back to our piece of track. It's now time to do the bogies on the coaches, and having a small piece of track like this where you can move the coach backwards and forwards, you can make sure that the discs of the wheels are pretty well covered. With the locomotive I did use the layout, but with these coaches you can just use it backwards and forwards. So again, just a very light, very, very, very light spray. That's all it takes. Just like that. Rotate it along a little bit. That's it. Now, and then all we do is rotate the coach around a little bit awkwardly, spin him around like that, and put him back on the track, like so. Once you get him back on like that, then we can do the other side. Just very light spray. Trying to avoid the windows. Just got to keep the spray gun going. That's all it takes. And then it's just rinse and repeat on each car. Just nice and light. It just needs to be quite light. But don't get too concerned if you go overboard. It doesn't have to do a little bit up on the ends as well. And the reason why you do a little bit on the ends is because you often get a little bit of splash. You get a little bit of splash when trains are going along, particularly down south. It can get very muddy along the tracks, get a bit of splash, the wheels splash dirt up the sides. So just very, very nice and light like that. Squirt up the side on each end, and that's it for that. So
Rock, Henty, Halcan, Albury, Wangaratta, Benalla and Melbourne. Only intending passengers should board this train.
Well, that brings to the end of this video. I hope you've really enjoyed our class on how we've weathered this train. I think it's come up pretty good. Look, there's plenty of ways to weather a train. Now, whether I've done it right or wrong, look, I don't know. This is just how I weather it. No doubt there'll be people in the comments who'll put in, whatever their views are on it, and I welcome that. Please tell me if I can do it a better way. But look, you can send your trains off and get them professionally weathered, or you can have a crack at it yourself, and that's what I've done here. I've had a look at the prototype. I've tried to match it pretty closely. I could do more work on it. I could spend more hours on it. But, you look at your trains from about a metre or more away, they all look pretty good once they're weathered up. So I've used this paint to match all of my ballast. I've given the roofs a spray. So I think it's come up pretty realistic. Plenty of people would say, why have you done this to such a beautiful model? But, realism is the key on the Kingsbury Model Railway. So till next time, hope you've enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time.